John Matonis from Hushmail, and he's going to talk about Bitcoin, something called Bitcoin. And that was in 2011. And John Matonis came on, and my first question was, okay, what is Bitcoin? And that was how we got introduced to it. I immediately saw it was similar to what I'd been working on with the digital currencies, so I got interested right away, and that's how we got started. Well, this is, I think, the one of the bigger drawdowns we've had. I think 85% drawdowns. You know, we had from 30 back to $1, 1,200 back to 200, 20,000 down to 3,800, now 70,000 down to 30,000. And at this particular juncture, on this particular one, I don't really think about it at all. We're just different than the early ones. So the early ones, because as Stacy points out, the main developing crew, the core developers of Bitcoin themselves were in revolt, and they were talking about hard forking and the big blockers, which wasn't resolved until 2017. But those types of issues were already being discussed, and those would be existential threats to the success of Bitcoin. So the downside was more palpable. The risk reward on Bitcoin right now is one of the most favorable ever. Number two, you can be certain it's a Van Gogh, but you don't even want to put up $5 to own it. You don't have, you're just not that, you're just not even going to risk $5. You're not going to do it. Number three is you're going to buy that Van Gogh for $5 and you'll be very happy you did. So let's play this out with Bitcoin. The first scenario you've got right now, Bitcoin's at 30,000. It's worth, 10, $20 million a coin at some point. So you got a lot of people that would complain about this, like the Christine Lagardes of the world or the Nouriel Rubinis. They go to the regulators or whomever, the press. They say, they complain, like, look, this asset, I'm going to complain about it. It's worth millions, but it's selling for 30,000, and they just complain and they talk about it. Then the second group you have, oh, it's at 30,000, it's worth millions, but they're not going to bother buying it at 30,000. That would be your Peter Schiffs of the world, who I told to buy Bitcoin when it was $1 and $5 and $10 and $50. But even though the case was clear that it's a new asset class and it could be worth millions, he didn't even want to put up $5. And I'm going to own it. So those are the three groups, and it's cheap at 30,000. It's cheap at 100,000, right? So Bitcoin's markets are discounting mechanisms. And now that inflation manifested and people are talking about it in its front page news, you buy in the rumor, sell in the news, right? So you have a pullback now that you've got that the news happened. It was, leading up to that event that was not yet on people's radar. So now the pullback is back to this level, and it's building a nice base. And before it makes that big assault to another price range, I think this price range and this era in Bitcoin, I call the Michael Saylor era. So Michael Saylor came in roughly 2 years ago. He started buying it at 10,000. I think MicroStrategy started buying it at 20,000. They've got a cost basis of 30,700, and which is roughly this range, this price range, the Michael Saylor era, MicroStrategy era, maybe an earnings surprise or something like that. So you never know exactly when that week is going to come, but if you're not in the market during that week, you will have missed that move. So Bitcoin from 30,000 to 300,000 can happen pretty quickly. I think right now, also another wave that we're seeing is we're seeing the collapse of the third wave of major frauds in crypto with the VC money, the VC coins, the Web3 coins. This is the third major wave of fraud. It seems to be breaking up at this time with the Luna scam and the Solana scam, and all these. Ethereum is basically a scam. So all these scams are now kind of falling apart. This is the third wave that since the beginning of Bitcoin. And that'll bring in now a new wave. And I think that new wave, Stacy talks about really the CBDCs as being the fourth major wave of central bank crypto fraud, right? It's no longer going to be Andreessen Horowitz doing crypto fraud. It'll be European central bank doing crypto fraud. Christine Lagarde will be doing crypto fraud. Well, you don't change Bitcoin, Bitcoin changes you. And the whole country is being transformed by Bitcoin and the ethos of Bitcoin and the aesthetic beauty of Bitcoin, the practicality of Bitcoin. The people on the ground are happy with this. They like the idea of having unconfiscatable wealth. And people will come up to me all the time and say, Max, I have $50 in Bitcoin. And it's the first time in their lives they've had unconfiscatable savings, unconfiscatable wealth, and they're building on it. They're adding to it, and they're happy about it, and it gives you a sense of agency, a sense of pride. They know that their president has been instrumental and part of this whole revolution. And on the sovereign level, of course, the country is squaring off against the IMF and other world organizations, which is, I think, being applauded by everybody who sees the threat of these supranational world organizations being overreaching. And that's becoming a greater problem on a daily basis. And they see what El Salvador is doing, and they applaud it. And now that is spreading into the region and around the world. And also, it's amazing that adjusted for the tourism dollar and the foreign direct investment money that's coming into El Salvador, the current Bitcoin position of the country, which is, and that's pretty much due to Bitcoin. Well, we launched it formally just a few weeks ago, really, and it's something that we came up with when we were in El Salvador, and we've had experience in the VC business now going back. We made our first Bitcoin venture capital investment back in 2013, and we have several funds: Bitcoin Capital 1, 2, and 3, Heisenberg Capital. So these have made 15, 16 investments in Bitcoin companies over the years. We have 6 or 7 unicorns that have come out of that. Like Kraken, for example, we got in at a $5 million valuation. I think they're going to look into 10 billion or so now. So we have a pretty good track record in this space and picking winners, I guess you could say. So it seemed like this was a great place to set up a new fund. So El Zonte, of course, is the surf town where Bitcoin Beach and the hyper Bitcoinization is taking place. And we've already made the only thing you have control over is yourself. Everything else is completely out of your control, including Bitcoin. And mastering yourself is a full-time job. And things can change very quickly. The clouds disappear and it's sunny, and those are people who are prepared for it are going to jump in and take advantage. And those who are mired in self-doubt are going to be hesitant, and they're going to miss it. Now, in the case of El Salvador, the clouds have already disappeared. They're already on the one, so to speak. they're already moving in this incredibly interesting and fascinating and productive direction. And so that's why we're really going there. That's why we're there, is because we've always been kind of on the cutting edge of this industry. And so that's where it is right now. The bleeding edge of Bitcoin is in El Salvador at the moment. So that's where we have to be